Hello and welcome to this edition of City Hall Insider. I'm Jim Marshall of the New Bedford Cable Network. We are joined in studio today by Public Safety Chiefs. Chief Scott Kruger of the Fire Department, Paul Oliveira of the Police Department, two guys I've known for a long time. So it's great to see you guys in the studio. Thanks so much for coming in. And I know you're busy, that's for sure, but it's great to have you in here for a show.
Sure, thanks for having us, Jim.
You're welcome. Thanks very much.
Lots of things going on, I know, with the departments. The one thing I know that just right off the bat, I mean, Chief, you were in a press conference a few weeks ago, not that long ago, and I know, Chief, you're dealing with too. It's just staffing issues right now. I mean, there's so much going on, and you know, these are honorable positions that kids grow up wanting to be when they're little kids. So tell us a little bit about just your staffing challenges and what you guys are hoping to do and to get those staffing levels up.
Sure. So, yeah, there's really been no secret in the police profession over the last couple of years. It's taken a major hit, like many professions, but I think the police profession, we've really felt it, and it's become, you know, somewhat of a crisis throughout the country, especially some of the larger departments.
Right. It's not we're not just talking New Bedford here. We're talking everywhere.
That's correct. And, you know, and I don't want to always make it sound like it's just not New Bedford, but it really is. It's a national problem. It's a problem when I go to these chiefs meetings and some chiefs throughout the country. Everyone's talking about staffing and the issues they're having, you know, bringing their departments to full complement. And with the rise of violent crime that's going on throughout the country. We're fortunate we haven't seen that rise in crime here in New Bedford, but obviously we know crime exists and we need, you know, staffing levels to address those issues. So, you know, unfortunately I can't tell you here today that I have the magic wand to fix our staffing issue. I've gone to a number of conferences on them and talked to other police chiefs. There really is nothing. It's right now, like you said, there's just less of a desire out there for the young to become police officers. So, you know, we need to continue to professionalize the department and try to entice, you know, young people to once again realize this is a noble and great profession.
Has a great impact on kids. You know, both of your professions have great impacts on kids. Chief, you talk about it all the time too. I mean, just the number of firefighters. You're looking for more firefighters. Always looking for firefighters.
We are in the back in the early '90s, early to mid '90s. The fire department hired a significant amount of firefighters back through the early, myself included. I became a firefighter in '93, coming over from New Bedford EMS, and there was a massive amount of hiring during that time. And now, you know, 30 years ago, you know, 30 years have passed. All of those people are now retiring themselves. They have they're in there, and I would say firefighting, in same as I imagine with law enforcement or EMS work, it's a young man's game. Mm-hmm. And you know, you're in your mid 50s, even if you're in great shape, you're going to, you know, and we go to a significant amount of fires here in New Bedford, and you're not recovering like, you know, when you were in your 20s and 30s. It's, you know, it's
recovery time.
And those, you know. And it's not, you know, in all those, you know, years of, you know, doing everything with your back and shoulders and knees and everything, and that now these people, you know, they're, hey, it's going to be time, you know, and it's a young man's game. Firefighting, you know, as a profession has changed. It's, you know, the equipment certainly has gotten better. It's gotten lighter, but, you know, the risks are still there. Obviously, that there's always the constant risk. You know, carcinogens are everywhere. You know, whether it's the smoke, it's PFAS in your gear, it's everywhere, and those things all, you know, all weigh on people. And now these people they've served the city, they've done their job well, and now, you know, they're looking to retire. So we're replacing these. Fortunately, we've been able to replace them, which is great, so we can stay fully staffed. But even still, you're not even getting the people to take the exam and come in and fill out the application paperwork and pass the background. Those numbers have dwindled for us. We're certainly not in the crisis mode like the police department is, but over the past few years, it's not the influx of people is not like it used to be, you know. So.
And you mentioned these are both civil service jobs, so you've got to take the test. And, you know, obviously you've got to pass it based on factors. But as you were saying to me off camera, which I thought was interesting, the police department this year, for the first time, did sort of a training session for folks before they took the test. Tell us a little bit about that. That's interesting.
Sure. So, we've been trying to think outside the box on some of the things maybe we haven't done in the past. So this year, that's what we did. We offered basically a study prep session for the test, because the test is this coming Saturday. It's a state-run civil service test. So I had a couple of my officers there, Captain Belong, Lieutenant Scott Carolla. We advertised basically a study prep session. And the good news is we had nearly 50 people show up, 50 people that are registered to take the test. And hopefully that will help them take the test. As we know, not everyone are good test takers. For whatever the reason, right? Some people are better at practical exams. So this gave them a little insight of what to expect. Ran through some of the questions, some practice questions with them. So yeah, we were very happy to see 50. We didn't know what the interest would be, but we had nearly 50 officers, I should say 50 applicants to the test show up. And then once the test is completed, which will be on Saturday, in April, we then plan to extend engagement with those and whoever else is interested, and start with some physical fitness workouts.
Because people who don't know, I mean, for both your jobs, I mean, you take the test, but you just don't start right away. You've got to go through police academy training or firefighter academy training, which I don't know the weeks. I know it's a good stretch, and you've got to be in shape. Sure. That's a big point of it.
Sure. So not only do you need to be in shape to enter the academy, but prior to getting to the academy, it's a pretty strenuous PAT test that you need to take, a physical aptitude test, to get into to even be qualified to become a police officer. And we lose a lot of applicants to that.
Really?
Whether it's the run or the sit-ups. So really, we're going to start working on who's ever interested, and we'll put something out on our Facebook page in the weeks to come. But we'll start this up in mid-April and start working out with whoever who's interested to try to get them to meet, to be sure they'll be ready for those standards. Once the results of the test come out, we start doing background checks to be sure they're ready, because we have lost a bigger number than what we wish to lose, obviously, right at the outset because of the standards.
And these, as you were telling me, these tests are done annually now by the state, the civil service exams. Is that the same with the fire department?
It is annually, yes.
Yeah, and I can't imagine the physical fitness for the firefighters. Not that it's different than the police, but it's. I mean, the lugging of the equipment and all that.
It's really. Then they actually have a practice session for the P8, and they make you go, if you want to actually take the physical agility test, you actually have to go to the practice session, and they walk you through what you need to do, because it's all timed, and most of it's technique. If you're in good shape and you can do the technique, then you should be able to pass the physical agility part of that exam. It is tough. We've lost applicants because they can't pass the exam, whether it's carrying, the climbing, or whatever. And that's another part of it too. You find people that they're either afraid of heights, they don't realize it until they start climbing a ladder, and they realize that's not for them, or they get claustrophobic, trying to crawl around with a mask on in the tank in a confined area. They find out that they're claustrophobic, and it's not for them. And it is not, just like our counterparts in the police, it's not for everybody. But we always encourage people to go for it, and some people, they get past it, and other people realize it's not for them. So you do lose, like the Chief Oliveira says, you do lose some people that are probably good people, but it's just, they can't get over that hurdle.
And I know police have this psychological exam too before you get on or join the academy too. That's part of the background.
That's part of the background. That's correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty strenuous background process to go through, but like I said, it's doable. It's nothing that can't be done. So.
Why? And this is a stupid question. You guys have done this your whole adult professional lives. I'm curious as to why. If you were telling somebody why to join, why would you encourage somebody to take the test or to become a firefighter or a police officer?
I still say it's a great job. It's a great job. You get to work in the community, in the community for the most people that you grew up in, and really make a difference. And in New Bedford, we do have a number of other divisions that you have the ability to go to. Our detective division, narcotics division, port security unit. So you have a number of divisions that you can really gear your interest to, if that's your interest, to get into one of them. So, and to me it was easy because I didn't deal with the problem of why do I want to do it. It's something I always wanted to do. It's a noble profession, and obviously, it was an easy decision for me. So I know other people now struggle with it, and I don't know if it's because what they see on TV. They see more police officers being arrested, or a fear of losing their job, a fear of civil suits.
But I think that's I'm on the outside, and this is just looking on the outside. I think that's the exception more than the rule, though.
I agree.
Maybe I'm wrong, but it just seems to me that gets highlighted. But the majority of police and firefighters too are doing their jobs and serving their communities to the best of their abilities.
No doubt about it. And I say that about the men and women in the Bedford Police Department. What they do on a daily basis, it's amazing. They do amazing work every single day. And, unfortunately, we know there's been some throughout the country that have made these, horrible decisions and horrible, don't call them mistakes because they're worse than mistakes, right? So, but they've really had profound impact on the whole profession. And to say that hasn't affected the image of the profession, right? We all know it has. So
right.
It's unfortunate. It hurts me every time I see it on the news because you take it as a personal strike against a profession that you love and you near and dear to your heart. So, hopefully the pendulum swings back and we get back, to the respect and to the profession that it is. And I do think that'll happen. I just hope it happens sooner than later.
Chief, what about you? You like you said, you joined 30 years ago. Why should why would someone want to be a firefighter? Why is it a great job?
It is ever since, I was a child, and, I was born in 1970, so emergency, started airing in 1972, with
we all watched that show.
And, and I got hooked on it, and I always loved fire trucks, when I was growing up, and, seeing fire trucks, and then it is just like the police chief said. It's a noble profession. You really and I always say, these professions, and EMS included, is that you can go into someone's life on their worst day, right, and make a profound positive impact on their lives, and change and help them, like I said, in their darkest time, in 15, 20 minutes or a half an hour, you've made that impact, and you leave. You might never see them again, these people, but that you made a difference in their lives. And if over the years you look back and you say all the positive things that you've done for people, like whether it's, saving their pet, putting a fire out in their, keeping a fire contained to one room of their house, saving their heirlooms or their belongings, or, if there's a bad accident, extricating them from a vehicle, and it's all of these things. It's not, and just like the police profession, this profession is not just. It's not just putting, going. Years ago, it was, there'd be a fire. You would go there and extinguish the fire, and then that would be pretty much, that was the fire. The name was the fire department, but now it's such a diverse. It's such a diverse profession. Yes, it's firefighting, fire suppression, it's prevention, education, fire investigation, hazardous materials, technical rescue, aircraft rescue, maritime rescue. It's all of these, these components.
It's kind of like what you were saying, the different divisions.
Yeah, there's so many things. Yeah, there's something, and the first day of the fire academy, when I go and meet the recruits, and I say to them, listen, guys, the sky's the limit for you. You can do anything you want. Firefighting is the core profession, is the core foundation of the fire department, but is all of these things that now that we do that 30 or 40 years ago we didn't do, and everything's based on science now. It's not just, when I got on the fire academy, they had just gone to 5 weeks. It's 5 weeks of training now, and because it had just been 4 not long before that. Now it's, it's more than doubled that, and there's so many things you learn, and it's written. You got to pass, tests. You have to be certified now, and it's a science all into itself, which is great. It is.
Tell me a little bit too, from your standpoint, from the policing side, as Chief Kruger was just saying. I mean, policing has changed, but there's so much more to it now too. And you were talking about even the training now is different for police officers than when you started, and probably 10 years ago, whatever.
Sure. Yeah. When I went to the academy, you basically went through the academy, and they taught you. It was still an extensive academy, but I say it was a lot of just the basics, right? And now we know so much of the job is so much more entailed than just going out and locking people up. Now we deal with so many non-police calls, but obviously we're the first to arrive. And really the first one that comes to mind is mental health, right? So
right.
Who would have thought nowadays that, we'd be going to this many mental health calls, dealing with people in major distress, dealing with mental state of mind. And now we have clinicians. Who would have ever thought that we'd be driving around with clinicians in
right.
police cars? If you would have told me that 30 years ago, that we'd have civilians driving around with police officers, right? It's like, and we're proud here in New Bedford to be one of the first departments to do it. And now it's been well received by our officers, and now, very common. It's not unusual. It's actually very common where you'll hear over the radio, is there a clinician available to show up to a call to assist a police officer? The police officers are realizing that, yes, there are better qualified people to handle some of our calls. And the fact that we have access to those clinicians has been a huge help. So that's been probably the most profound thing that's really happened throughout the years, to see civilians drive around with police officers,
right.
just to deal with those types of calls.
You've been dealing, the fire department too, with drug addiction, overdoses. You guys deal with those calls on a daily basis now, administering Narcan.
Yeah, that's, it's a big, from earlier in my career where we weren't really involved in first responder care, and over the years since 1996 we've become more it's evolved and more involved, and the care has got administering Narcan, which is a big, early days Narcan wasn't available to first responders. It was just available to paramedics, and that was getting it to be able to be given by police officers and firefighters who were not EMTs is a huge it's saved it has saved countless lives, and it does, a fair amount of our calls involve opiate overdose calls, and for people not breathing or overdosed, and it's good to be able to get there quickly and kind of turn things around, and hopefully these people themselves can turn it around as well, and that's just like one part of, like I said, having AEDs, the defibrillators and EpiPens and all these things, it's advanced, every available skill that we can give to the first responders and equipment, we have here, and it's just, and it's great to be involved in that, because that's what it's all about, is about saving all of us together, saving lives and make a difference, and the guys and gals of this department do a great job with that, and I commend them every day. It's the grind, just like Chief Oliveira said, go in there, you never, at the beginning of the shift, you never know what the day is going to bring you. It can go in so many different directions, and you have to appreciate like their mindset going to work, like for their every day, knowing, hey, I don't know what's going to happen today, what the day is going to bring you, and and you got to think about all those years, all those days, weeks, and years that all of our personnel do that. It's you got to give them, you give them credit for. That's what, say, oh, that's what they signed up for, but yeah, they did, but over the years, there's so many, they're meant, you got their physical health, obviously, but over so many years, you're carrying around a lot of things with you, a lot of bad things that, there's good things that you've seen, and you've done, but there's so many other, bad things that you see. It's like, so it's life unfiltered, and you have to hope that, over the years, the decades, that, all those bad things that, they're all still there, and, and these people, you're going to hopefully retire, and they're happy and healthy, and they deserve it when they get there, So it's
And experience matters for both your jobs too. I mean, you want obviously the young folks coming in to replace those that have retired, but those people that have been on the job 10, 20 years, their experience to those new people, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah, in both professions, no doubt about it. And that's really what's hurt the police profession, right? Where you've heard about these mass resignations has been with the older folks
Really?
who would have stayed. In our profession in Massachusetts, you don't have to leave till you're 65. You may max out your pension prior to that, but when I first came on the job, we had many officers that would stay into their 60s. And now it's far and few between. We see an officer stay, beyond 55, really. 55 has become the new 65. And we don't, obviously we have a number of officers who are leaving closer to 50. So that has really, not just hurt the profession in numbers wise, but 100% right. It's really hurt us in expertise.
Wisdom. Just
And wisdom, no
yeah.
doubt about it. There's so much institutional knowledge, that goes along with that for those people that have stayed on both our professions, that have been through so much in that experience. So when we lose those older officers, it really it hurts because we lose that extra mentorship that we really need on the streets, right? Because they're the ones out there. We have a command staff, obviously, that help our officers on the streets make some of their day-to-day decisions if need be. But there's nothing better than the person that's also showing up at that call every single time with them to give them that insight or help them with a report or
Right.
Help them mentor somebody on the street. So so it hurts. There's no doubt.
Talk about some equipment. You were touching on equipment. I think that's great because, you were talking about the fire truck as a kid, but even off camera, you were telling me, the equipment that you guys have is a lot different than it was 30 years ago. But it has, I don't want to say made your job easier. Maybe it is. Maybe some of it has made it easier, but it's certainly been more efficient. Let's put it that way, too.
Yeah, and there's no question. I say fire trucks keep getting bigger and bigger all the time, but the bays to the station are staying the same size, and they have. If you look at fire trucks from the 70s and you look at the ones now, we're expected to carry equipment to deal with every situation, and we do, and our equipment has become so advanced, it's become so, like everything now is, the big thing for us is thermal imaging cameras, being able to go, back, before Worcester, mostly before the Worcester cold storage fire, and you were searching, thermal cameras were in their infancy, and they were big and clunky, and now they're small. We have the MSA Lunars, and you hold the thing in your hand. It's not much bigger than your iPhone, and they're far better. We have them integrated into our packs now that you can hold it, and you can hold it in your hand from your breathing apparatus and use it and look at thermal for search and rescue, fire extension. There's so many, and that's just one part of it. There's cameras. There's our metering, our chemical and gas metering equipment and metering systems for chemical, biological, byproducts of combustion. It's everything now is all becoming automated for everything that we do, and it's great. And like Chief Oliveira said, you have to combine all of that new integration, that new science with experience. And you can't. It's hard when you have all of these officers that are retiring, the command staff, like they will go pull up to a fire, and you look at, and it's all about, we always say it's all about reading smoke, right? If you just had no smoke and all the fire, you'd just say, hey, there's the fire right there, we're going to go put it out. But that's not how it is. And new construction today and belongings in people's houses put out so many BTUs, in the byproducts of combustion are so carcinogenic now. And it's like, you have to look at a building and read it within a very, very short amount of time,
right.
And read, hey, this is what this fire is doing. This is where it's going to go. This is what we need. This is where we need to deploy first. And you can't put a price on that experience, because that's what, like the chief said, institutional knowledge, and you can't. And that's what we want these people to pass down to the new firefighters. But the people that are becoming supervisors for the first time, the lieutenants, and that they have to take that. We hope that knowledge, is imparted with them, because we want to continue that. That's what makes us, I think that's what makes us so good at our job, is our ability to act quickly, overwhelm fire, and minimize the, damage from smoke and fire.
And the funny thing with the police department as far as vehicles go, I mean, when I was a kid, they were all, Ford sedans, for crying out loud. Now, for the most part, the police are using SUVs now. There's more in there too.
Yeah, there's a lot more in the vehicles. I get in the vehicles. I haven't been in a frontline car. I go in, I get confused with all the technology in there.
But I mean, that's a big change when you think about it.
And really, what drove that change was Ford. Ford stopped making the Crown Vic, and it stopped making a number of cars that were used traditionally as police cars. It was the Crown Vic forever. Yeah, then they went to the Ford Taurus. They stopped making that, and now they make the Ford Explorer. So as you see, most departments are now using the Ford Explorer.
And they're like offices. When you really think about it, they're like portable offices for police officers.
No doubt about it. Yeah, the technology in there, obviously, it's been great. Like Chief Kruger says, right? It's all for the better, right? Now we have tablets in there. Officers are able to gather so much information at their fingertips, right through, whether it's at a traffic stop or less dispatch needed, communication over the radio, which is obviously. It's safer for the officers to have that information at a expedited time period. So that's great. They're able to keep their rifle right in the front seat with them. Back in the day, the rifle would be locked up in a safe in the trunk. So that's
saves time.
Saves a lot of time.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. Obviously, the lighting on cruisers is much better now, which makes it much safer. Responding to emergency calls. Back in the day, just having that old all the lighting now with LED. It's much safer, much brighter. So there's a number of factors that have really enhanced.
And you were talking tasers safety moments ago too, off camera with me.
Yeah, so we're in the process now. We're updating all our officers with the newest taser, the Taser 7. So I still say it's probably one of the best weapons that was ever put on a police officer's duty belt. It's a de-escalation weapon, really, right?
Right.
The amount of times that we've been able to de-escalate the situation using a taser, it's a non-lethal use of force, and sometimes just the fact by pulling it out. De-escalates the situation without even have to pull the trigger on it. So, I mean, if you do have to pull the trigger, we know it's non-lethal. It very rarely will require even a medical attention. So the taser has been a great piece of equipment for police officers, and we've now purchased all the newest, latest and greatest updated taser. So like I said, we're in the process now of getting those in the hands of all our officers, getting them trained and getting them on the street.
So people who are watching this, we've got about a minute left, but I want to make sure, people who are watching this, do they have questions about the police department or the fire department? How can they get in touch with you guys and ask their questions and talk to you if they want to join the departments or something like that? Or I know that you guys give tours of stuff for folks too. How can they get in touch with you guys?
Yeah, I mean, you can email either of us. We have emails right on the city's website. We have a really active Facebook page. We get messages from people all the time. We like to update that daily on what's happening in the fire department. Most of the time, people stop into the fire stations and talk to the guys and the gals, and ask them. But the civil service, when that usually gets out there, people know when there's an exam, and a lot of, I mean, the internet's great for some things. I mean. And not for other, but I mean, a lot of information on what goes on with, with the fire service, and that is all readily available. But just asking one of us is, we're out there all the time. We like to do education, and we like talking to people.
Ditto.
Same here. Yeah, New Bedford Police Department Facebook page. Obviously, that's we have a great Facebook page, and obviously our website, New Bedford PD, New Bedford Police Department. .com. So you can go to the website, and obviously we have a public information officer, Lieutenant Scott Carolla. We have a training division, so we have a number of officers that can respond to those types of any types of inquiries, or obviously I can be reached anytime, like the chief says, through my personal city email. So
it's great seeing you guys. Lots to cover. We got it done. Actually, we went a little over, so it's great to see you guys. Thanks for coming in. Stay safe, that's for sure.
You're welcome. Yeah, thanks very
Jim.
much for having us.
All right. That's going to do it for this edition of City Hall Insider. I'm Jim Marshall of the New Bedford Cable Network. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you again soon.